Hi, here we are again. Unit 3, we're going to talk about cells. And you have some pretty good materials to read, so what I intend to do is to talk to you about the reason we study cells and why you should be interested in it. It has a lot to do with the differentiation between different kinds of cells in your body. Normally we start out talking about a model cell, a general model cell. And you have a PowerPoint to start that with. And your PowerPoint starts out talking about that all cells are small. That's a mistake, I'm sorry. All cells are not small, but generally they are. And ultimately they are. You'll understand that in a minute. Most cells can only be seen under a microscope, and cellular organelles to be seen need to have normally a even more intricate microscope, one with much higher magnifications. But there are some cells, like onion cells from the skin, that we can look at with a basic microscope like you might find in a high school and actually see the nucleus. And if you got a pretty good teacher, he can show you how to find the nucleolus, which is inside the nucleus. You can see cell membranes, and you can see the cell walls. But what I want to share with you is about the size of cells. Now, there's another slide here. Might as well go down to it, that talks about the size of cells and the different components inside them. And then there's a slide that shows you a scale of size, getting all the way from a tenth of a nanometer or an angstrom, from a hydrogen atom, an amino acid, a protein, all the way up to the size of a great big sequoia tree, an adult human here, and so forth. So let's talk about the size of cells, and this little chick coming out of an egg, of course, is multicellular. Lots of cells there. But are all cells tiny? No, they're not. Have you ever eaten an egg? There's an egg. And that's a single cell until it starts to differentiate into all the cells that make up a chicken. That's an individual cell. The largest individual cell I have ever seen was an emu egg. I may have seen an ostrich egg that's larger. An emu egg is very large. It's about the size of a little bit smaller than a softball, I guess. And I've eaten an emu egg. And it took 2 big frying pans to make omelet from an emu egg. And I ate, not all of it at one time, but I ate it, and it tastes just like a chicken egg. A duck egg tastes like a chicken egg. A turkey egg tastes like a chicken egg, and those are all fine to eat. But an emu egg, although it tastes like a chicken egg, it's a little bit different. And I got a little bit of a stomach ache and a little bit sick from eating too much of it at one time because it's so rich. The reason is, if you think about it, an emu egg has a different surface to volume ratio between its surface and the size of its yolk compared to the white, such that there's a lot more yolk in an emu egg compared to the white than there is in a chicken egg. So if you eat a chicken egg, or 2 or 3, you're okay. But if you eat a lot of an emu egg at one time, you're getting mostly yolk and very little white. And that yolk is very rich, and you're going to get a little upset stomach and diarrhea, probably, from eating that much richness at one time. And that illustrates an important point, which is why most cells are actually small. And the reason is because of the surface to volume ratio. If we think about these sizes in here, human red blood cell, for example, and that's a good one to look at. What happens is that human cell, its job is to carry oxygen to your cells from your lungs, dump the oxygen, and then to pick up CO2, bring it to your lungs, and that CO2 crosses the membrane, goes into the air in your lungs, and you exhale it. How does that happen? Well, it's a chemical reaction. First of all, understand that it has to happen throughout your whole body at a very rapid rate. It has to happen fast, and it happens a lot of times, billions of times, probably every minute or second. So here's what happens. That red blood cell has a molecule in it called hemoglobin, and it is in your lungs. And it has a very low concentration of oxygen because it's dumped it and it's picked up CO2. The air in your lungs that you just breathed in has a very high concentration of oxygen comparatively. And so, through the process of diffusion, simple diffusion, that oxygen in your lungs just goes, and it's right into that hemoglobin, attaches, and it can be carried to your cells. At the same time, the CO2, which is in high concentrations in your blood, because the blood cells, the red cells, just came back from tissues that were active, that CO2 is at very low concentrations in your air in your lungs. And so that CO2 just goes right out, just through the membrane, through pure diffusion. So that gradient that is maintained in the differences in concentration is what automatically causes oxygen to come into your cells and oxygen and CO2 to go out, and your body maintains that. And there's a little bit more homeostasis involved, a little more chemistry, blood chemistry involved. But that's what happens. So when we talk about cells and the fact that they're small, the reason they have to be small is because there isn't enough time for CO2 and oxygen and all the other things that have to be transmitted from out of the cell into the cell and back out of the cell as wastes. Food goes in, waste goes out. It has to happen fast, so it can't have a long distance to go. So cells are small so that a lot of this can happen at one time. We'll talk about differentiations of cells and how that a lot of cells have to dump products that they produce into your bloodstream all at one time to get enough to make other things happen in other parts of your body. That's pretty important. So during this, you have your PowerPoint to look at. So during this lecture, and by the way, I'll put this companion site under the content tab with this link to this lecture, so you'll have it. And then there's another link here that I want you to be able to look at. I hope you can get into it. It is a site that would help you perhaps to understand some of these cellular organelles. This is a site that I had students work with me on to make a website that we could share with people that would explain what each of the organelles in the general cell does. Well, here's the general cell. And well, when you look at the general cell, it gives you a diagram, really, of where different things are: centrioles, vacuoles, endoplasmic reticulum, secretory vesicles, mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cells, and you can read all about those. But all you have to do to read about the different things is click on those, and then in some cases there will be some embedded videos from YouTube that you can watch that are about those different organelles. So I wanted to share that with you. In addition to that, I have a wiki that I wanted to share with you. And this wiki that you can sign into, I believe, also has videos. This one is Cell Rap. That is a cute little cell song made for little kids. But you may have some little kids at home that might enjoy this one. And it's sort of nice. I sort of like it. There's also links on this to other cell sites. We'll come back to some of these. And then there's a pretty good video about cancer and what cancer is. It's undifferentiated and uncontrolled cell division that ends up potentially spreading throughout your body if it metastasizes. If it doesn't, it may be benign, and even though it may be malignant, they may be able to get it out of you and save your life. And then there's a little discussion about free radicals and what they are and how they can damage processes within your cell. Sometimes you hear about these when you talk about diets a lot. So hopefully you can enjoy this site. And here one of my students, Alyssa, picked up a link to a site called Cells Alive. And again, there's a lot of things that go on with these different sites that you can look at and use. Okay. Then there's an anatomy site that you can go to that we use. That, get down here smaller. It has links to different parts of the body, and also they have links to the anatomy of cells and to the anatomy of different kinds of differentiated cells. And that's really going to be the subject of the next little video. I'm going to talk to you about how a variety of cells differentiate and have special functions, especially because the cellular organelles vary and are not exactly the same as you would see. There's some great stuff here on bone tissue and bone cells. There's things that you can look at in here that for example, you can do some exercises to help you study and learn. That would be good things to do for your quizzes. But in this one, you would simply drag these names into the banners for the different things. For example, this arrow I think is pointing towards the nucleolus. Let's see if I can find nucleolus here. Maybe just pointing to the nucleus. So, see, it fits. So you can go through that and take a look at this too in order to study this. Now in the next video, I'm going to make two here because I need more time. I'm going to talk to you about the nervous system. Just briefly, I want to show you that there's a lot of differentiation, and so I'm only going to spend time on one, but I'm going to come back to looking at a neuron because they're so unique. An individual neuron can actually be as long as 3 feet. It can come out of your spine and go all the way to your toe. So that's a really differentiated cell that's quite unique, but there are a lot of neurons in your body, and there are other cells associated with neurons that, when put together, allow your body and your brain to function and function well. So in the next video, we're going to talk about neurons and differentiation of different cells in your body.